I always thought my family was quirky, maybe a little overbearing, but ultimately loving. That illusion shattered the night of my engagement party. What they called a fun tradition turned into the most humiliating experience of my life, and the aftermath, well, let's just say a lot of expensive party decorations ended up in the dumpster. My name is Ethan, and for the longest time I genuinely believed I had a pretty good family. Sure, they had their quirks. My mom could be a bit much with the unsolicited advice, and my dad's jokes were so corny they circled back to being almost funny. My siblings, Liam and Chloe, well, they were your typical brother and sister, a mix of annoying and supportive in equal measure. But overall, we were a unit. We showed up for each other's big moments, celebrated holidays together, the whole 9 yards. So, when I decided to propose to Sarah, the woman who had completely stolen my heart over the past 3 years, I was excited to share the news with them. Sarah is everything I'm not. She's outgoing, artistic, and has this incredible ability to light up any room she walks into. My family had met her a few times, mostly at casual gatherings, and they seemed to like her well enough. Or so I thought. I planned the proposal carefully. A romantic dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant, followed by a walk along the waterfront where I'd get down on one knee under the twinkling city lights. She said yes, of course, through happy tears, and the moment was perfect. The first thing I wanted to do was call my parents. They said yes. My mom shrieked into the phone, her excitement palpable. "Oh, Ethan, that's wonderful. We're so happy for you both." My dad chimed in with his usual brand of enthusiasm. "Congratulations, son. Now the real work begins. Planning the wedding." Liam and Chloe offered their congratulations too, and everything felt right. We decided to have the engagement party at my parents' house. It's big enough to host a decent crowd, and my mom loves to play hostess. Sarah's family, who live a few states away, were going to fly in, and we were both really looking forward to having everyone together to celebrate. The weeks leading up to the party were a whirlwind of planning. Sarah, with her impeccable taste, took the lead on decorations, while my mom busied herself with the menu. I mostly just tried to stay out of their way and offered my opinion when asked. Everything seemed to be falling into place. The day of the party arrived, and the weather couldn't have been more perfect. Sunny, with a gentle breeze, the kind of day that makes you feel like anything is possible. Sarah looked absolutely stunning in a flowy dress, and I felt like the luckiest guy in the world as I watched her mingle with our families and friends. As the evening went on, the atmosphere was lively and joyful. There was plenty of food, laughter, and heartfelt toasts. Sarah's parents were lovely, and they seemed genuinely thrilled to welcome me into their family. My own family was on their best behavior, or so I thought. It was during the dessert course, as people were starting to relax and chat in smaller groups, that my older brother, Liam, stood up, tapping his glass with a spoon. "All right, everyone, can I have your attention for a moment?" he announced, a mischievous glint in his eye. A hush fell over the room as all eyes turned to him. "So, as many of you know," Liam continued, a smirk spreading across his face, "our family has a bit of a tradition when someone gets engaged." A wave of unease washed over me. I had no idea what he was talking about. Sure, we had our usual holiday rituals and inside jokes, but a specific engagement tradition? This was news to me. I glanced at my parents, but their expressions were unreadable. Sarah, sitting beside me, looked equally confused. "It's a tradition that goes way back," Liam elaborated, his voice dripping with false sentimentality. "A way to really test the strength and commitment of the happy couple." He paused for dramatic effect, and I could feel my palms starting to sweat. What on earth was he about to say? My younger sister, Chloe, chimed in, her voice laced with an unsettling excitement. "Yeah, it's all about seeing how well the future spouse fits into the family dynamic. Testing their ability to handle our unique sense of humor." Sarah squeezed my hand, her brow furrowed with concern. "What kind of tradition is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam and Chloe exchanged knowing glances before Liam answered, his tone suddenly turning serious. "Well, Sarah," he began, "in our family, when someone gets engaged, we have what we call the family roast." My jaw dropped. A roast? For Sarah? I had been to roasts before, usually for milestone birthdays or retirements, and they could be brutal even when done in jest. The thought of my family, who barely knew Sarah, subjecting her to a barrage of potentially embarrassing or hurtful jokes in front of everyone made my stomach churn. A roast, I repeated, my voice incredulous. You're kidding, right? My dad chuckled, a nervous sound that didn't reassure me in the slightest. Now, Ethan, it's all in good fun. Just a bit of light-hearted teasing. Light-hearted? My family's idea of light-hearted often involved digging up embarrassing childhood stories and exaggerating them for maximum comedic effect. I couldn't imagine what kind of ammunition they would try to use against Sarah, who was still relatively new to the family. My mom, ever the peacemaker, tried to smooth things over. Honey, it's just our way of welcoming Sarah into the family. It's a sign that we accept her. But her words did little to quell my growing anxiety. I looked at Sarah, whose face had paled slightly. She was trying to put on a brave smile, but I could see the apprehension in her eyes. I don't know about this, guys, I said, my voice firm. Sarah hasn't even had a chance to really get to know all of you yet. Maybe we can skip the tradition this time. Liam scoffed. Come on, Ethan, don't be such a stick in the mud. It's tradition. We can't just break tradition. Chloe added, yeah, and it's not like we're gonna say anything too bad. Just a few gentle ribbings. The way they were talking about it, like it was some harmless game, made my blood boil. I knew my family. They could be relentless when they wanted to be, especially when they thought they were being funny. And the thought of Sarah being the target of their jokes, potentially feeling uncomfortable or even hurt, filled me with dread. I really don't think this is a good idea, I insisted, my voice rising slightly. Sarah and I are celebrating our engagement. This should be a happy occasion, not an opportunity for whatever this is. My dad cleared his throat, his expression turning a bit more serious. Ethan, son, we've done this for every engagement in the family. It's just what we do. Sarah needs to understand that we're a family that likes to joke around. But there's a difference between joking around and potentially making someone feel uncomfortable on what's supposed to be one of the happiest nights of their lives. I countered, my gaze fixed on my family. The room was silent now, the festive atmosphere completely gone. Sarah placed her hand on my arm, giving me a reassuring squeeze. It's okay, Ethan, she said softly, her voice surprisingly calm. I'm sure your family doesn't mean any harm. I can handle a few jokes. I looked at her, admiration and concern warring within me. She was being so much more gracious than I was in this situation. But I still didn't like it. I knew my family, and I had a bad feeling about this. One by one, my family members took their turns. Liam started, and his jokes, while mildly embarrassing for me, were mostly harmless. Chloe followed, and her jabs were a bit sharper, focusing on Sarah's career as a freelance photographer, implying it wasn't a real job. I cringed inwardly but tried to play it off with a nervous laugh. Then came my mom. Her jokes started innocently enough, teasing Sarah about her cooking skills, or lack thereof, based on the one time she had tried to bake cookies at our apartment. But then they took a turn. She started bringing up things I had confided in her about Sarah, things that were meant to be private. My jaw tightened, and I shot my mom a look, but she just smiled sweetly, oblivious or perhaps deliberately ignoring my discomfort. Finally, it was my dad's turn. He cleared his throat and looked directly at Sarah. So, Sarah, he began, his voice taking on a more serious tone, Ethan tells us you're quite the artist. That's interesting. Does that mean you'll be able to afford to support him when his tech job inevitably goes bust? The room went silent. My dad's joke wasn't just unfunny. It was downright insulting. Sarah's smile faltered, and I could see a flicker of hurt in her eyes. Dad, I exclaimed, my voice filled with anger. That's completely out of line. He just shrugged, a smug look on his face. Hey, just a joke. Gotta see if she can take it, right? But it wasn't just a joke. It felt like an attack, a way for my dad to subtly undermine Sarah and question her worthiness of being with me. And the worst part was, my mom and siblings were just sitting there, watching it all unfold, some even with small smiles on their faces. I looked at Sarah, my heart aching for her. She was trying her best to laugh it off, but I could see the strain in her eyes. This wasn't the welcoming celebration I had hoped for. This was a calculated attempt to make her feel like an outsider. "You know what?" I said, standing up, my voice trembling with anger. "I think we've had enough of this tradition for one night." My family looked at me, surprised by my outburst. "But we haven't even gotten to the really good stuff yet," Liam protested, a hint of disappointment in his voice. "There is no good stuff, Liam," I retorted, my gaze sweeping across their faces. "This whole thing has been mean-spirited and completely inappropriate." My mom tried to interject, but I cut her off. "No, Mom, I'm done. Sarah and I are going to go." I turned to Sarah, taking her hand. "Let's get out of here." She stood up with me, her hand gripping mine tightly. As we made our way towards the door, I could feel the weight of my family's stares on our backs. I didn't care. All I cared about was getting Sarah away from this toxic environment. We didn't say much as we drove back to our apartment. The silence in the car was heavy with unspoken words and hurt feelings. When we finally got inside, Sarah let out a long, shaky breath. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," I said, my voice filled with genuine remorse. "I had no idea they were going to do that. I would never have let you go through that if I had known." She turned to me, her eyes glistening with tears. "It's okay, Ethan. It wasn't what I expected." "I know," I said, pulling her into a hug. "They were awful. I can't believe they would treat you like that." We stood there for a long moment, just holding each other. The joy and excitement of our engagement had been completely overshadowed by my family's cruel and unnecessary tradition. Later that night, after Sarah had gone to bed, I sat alone in the living room, replaying the events of the evening in my head. I felt a mix of anger, disappointment, and a deep sense of betrayal. How could my own family, the people who were supposed to love and support me, treat the woman I loved with such disrespect? I picked up my phone and started typing a message to my siblings. I didn't hold back. I told them how hurt and angry I was, how their so-called tradition had humiliated Sarah and me, and how disgusted I was by their behavior. I hit send, then tossed my phone onto the couch, feeling a small measure of satisfaction but also a heavy weight in my chest. This was more than just a bad night. It felt like something had fundamentally shifted in my relationship with my family, and I wasn't sure if it could ever go back to the way it was before. My phone buzzed incessantly throughout the night. It was a barrage of messages from my family, mostly defensive, some laced with guilt, and a few outright accusatory. My mom's were the worst, filled with dramatic pronouncements about how I was breaking her heart and ruining the family. My dad's were angrier, accusing me of overreacting and being disrespectful to our traditions. Liam and Chloe mostly echoed our parents' sentiments, adding their own flavor of self-pity and indignation. I didn't reply to any of them. I was too exhausted and, frankly, too disgusted to engage. What was there to say? They had shown their true colors, and I didn't need to hear their justifications or excuses. The next morning, Sarah and I woke up to a quiet apartment. The remnants of our happy engagement were still scattered around: the congratulatory cards, the half-eaten cake, the unopened bottles of champagne. But the joy had been completely sucked out of everything. "Morning," Sarah said softly, her voice still a little fragile. "Morning," I replied, forcing a smile. "How are you feeling?" She shrugged. "A little bruised emotionally, but I'm okay. More importantly, how are you?" "Angry," I admitted. So angry at them. And honestly, a little stupid for not seeing this coming. "Hey," she said, reaching for my hand. "Don't blame yourself. You thought your family loved you. That's not a stupid thing to think." We spent the morning talking, trying to process everything that had happened. Sarah was incredibly supportive, telling me that she understood my anger and that she was there for me, no matter what. Her strength and understanding meant the world to me. Later that day, I got a call from my dad. I hesitated before answering, but eventually, I picked up. "Ethan, we need to talk," he said, his voice stern. "About what, Dad?" About how you and the rest of the family ganged up on Sarah and made her feel like garbage. I retorted, my voice still sharp with anger. Now, hold on a minute, he said, his tone defensive. It was just a bit of fun. You're taking this way too seriously. Fun? Dad, your joke about Sarah not being able to support me was humiliating and insulting. And the whole roast thing? It was cruel and unnecessary. That's not how you welcome someone into the family. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Then my dad sighed. Look, Ethan, it's how we do things. It's our way of showing someone we care enough to tease them. It's a sign of acceptance. Well, your way of showing acceptance is deeply flawed, I said, my voice cold. Sarah is kind, intelligent, and the most wonderful person I know. She deserves to be treated with respect, not like some punching bag for your family's twisted sense of humor. So what? You're just going to cut us all off now? He asked, his voice laced with a hint of desperation. I don't know, Dad, I said honestly. I need some time to think about things. But what I do know is that I won't stand by and watch you or anyone else in this family treat Sarah with anything less than the respect she deserves. The conversation ended with an uneasy truce. I knew this wasn't over, but I had said what I needed to say. I had drawn a line in the sand. Over the next few weeks, the silence from my family was deafening. There were no more calls, no more texts, no more attempts to reach out. It was as if they had decided to give me the silent treatment, hoping I would eventually come crawling back, apologizing for my overreaction. But I didn't. Instead, Sarah and I focused on each other. We celebrated our engagement in our own way, with quiet dinners and long walks. We started making plans for our future, a future that felt brighter and more hopeful without the looming shadow of my family's negativity. One evening, as we were packing away the decorations from the ill-fated engagement party, Sarah stopped, holding up a large, ornate floral arrangement. What should we do with all of this? She asked, a thoughtful look on her face. It's all so beautiful. It seems a shame to just throw it away. I looked at the piles of decorations, the elegant tablecloths, the delicate fairy lights, the boxes of unopened party favors. We had spent a significant amount of money on everything, and now it all felt tainted by the events of that night. I don't know, I said with a sigh. Maybe we can try to return some of it? Sarah shook her head. I have a better idea. She grabbed her phone and started searching. Remember how my cousin volunteers at that women's shelter downtown? Yeah, I said, a flicker of an idea starting to form in my mind. Well, Sarah continued, a smile spreading across her face. They're always looking for ways to make the shelter feel more welcoming for the women and children staying there. What if we donated all of this to them? They could use it to decorate for events, or just to make the place feel a little more homey. My heart swelled with pride. Of course, Sarah would think of something so selfless. That's a wonderful idea, I said, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. It felt like we were taking something that had been associated with a negative experience and turning it into something positive. We spent the next day packing up all the decorations and delivering them to the women's shelter. The staff there were incredibly grateful, their faces lighting up as they saw the boxes filled with beautiful items. It felt good, really good, to know that something good was coming out of what had been a truly awful experience. A few weeks later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from my mom. I hesitated for a long time before opening it, unsure of what to expect. Inside, the letter was surprisingly subdued. She didn't apologize directly for what had happened at the party, but she did express some regret and said that she missed me. She ended by saying that she hoped we could talk soon. I showed the letter to Sarah, and we talked about it for a while. I was still hurt and angry, but a small part of me also missed my family. We had shared so many years together, so many memories, even if some of them were now tainted. Eventually, I decided to reach out to my mom. We agreed to meet for coffee, just the two of us. The conversation was awkward at first, but slowly we started to talk. She didn't try to excuse their behavior, and she even admitted that maybe, just maybe, the tradition had gotten a little out of hand over the years. It wasn't a magical reconciliation. There were still a lot of unresolved issues and hurt feelings. But it was a start. Over the next few months, I had similar conversations with my dad, Liam, and Chloe. It was a slow and sometimes painful process, but gradually, we started to rebuild our relationship, albeit with new boundaries and a clearer understanding of each other's expectations. Sarah and I eventually got married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and her family. My family was there too, and while there were still some lingering tensions, they were on their best behavior. It wasn't the big, traditional wedding my mom had always envisioned, but it was perfect for us. Looking back, the disastrous engagement party turned out to be a turning point in my life. It forced me to confront some uncomfortable truths about my family and to prioritize my own happiness and the happiness of the woman I loved. It taught me that family isn't always about blood, but about love, respect, and genuine connection. And sometimes the most valuable traditions are the ones you choose to create for yourself. As for the engagement party decorations, they found a new purpose, bringing a little bit of beauty and joy to those who needed it most. And in the end, that felt like a much better outcome than a night filled with hurtful jokes.